All right, guys, we're going to get started. Just a few things before we jump in. Bathrooms are right out that door to my right. And any waters throughout the presentation, if you want some waters, do not hesitate to come up. It's hot outside. Luckily, it's cool in here, so grab any waters. But welcome to Diman. I'm Andrew Rebello. I'm the assistant superintendent and principal. And thank you for all the students joining us, and adults and teachers, family members here today. Really appreciate you being with us, because this is a very special presentation today. We have Olek. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. I will let him do that for you. But Olek comes from Ukraine and grew up in Ukraine, went to school there, has family still there. And Mrs. Ashley Duffy, a history teacher here at Diman, connected with him during the war and set up this relationship between Diman and Olek and essentially Ukraine, and hearing perspectives of what's going on there. Something you hear at Diman a lot is getting kids life ready. Right, kids, you hear that all the time, get life ready. Part of that, part of being life ready and graduating from Diman Life Ready is exposing our students to global perspectives, right? Understanding what's happening around the world, around the nation. So they're not siloed to this area or this state. They really understand why things are happening around the world. And hearing it directly from Olek is really, really great opportunity for them to be life ready and ultimately globally ready. So to talk a little bit more about the relationship and how this started will be Miss Duffy. And then we'll turn it over to Olek to talk a little bit, and then at the end we'll do a Q&A. You can ask any questions that you would like. But this is a very special moment here today. We're very lucky to have Olek here with us, and this is a great opportunity for not only our students, but everyone here today, so we're excited to have them. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Ashley Duffy.
Hey guys, so first and foremost, I want to introduce Olek. Olek and I actually met on Instagram, which I know many of my students use Instagram, back March 17th. So just a few weeks into the Ukraine-Russian war, the war broke out February 24th, of course. As a history teacher, I took a special interest in the war right off the bat, and I was kind of following it a little obsessively for quite some time because we haven't seen a war this large in Europe since World War II, so it's very fascinating to me. So I had been following the war, following the media on Instagram, following President Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, on Instagram, and I was trying to offer words of support and encouragement as best as I could. Olek actually responded to one of my comments and sent me a message on Instagram. I was at work at the time. I viewed it on one of my prep periods, and I left him on red, which a lot of you guys know is usually not a good thing when someone leaves you on red, right? It's a scene, and then hours go by and no response. So I messaged him later on after I received another message from him saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to just randomly message you out of the blue, and he had sent me a follow request and all that. He's like, I'm very, very sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. And I responded back and just let him know, I'm at work. I didn't respond to it at the time. And we just started talking. That whole evening, we spent a few hours talking back and forth. He had let me know he was in Poland at the time, safely there. And we just kind of went back and forth for quite some time. I'm going to let him get into the discussions that we had about his mother escaping from the war, his grandmother and uncle who are still there in the east of the country, which is under heavy Russian shelling every single day as we speak there during that. But April 3rd, after probably, about when we met March 17th, about 3 weeks or so of constant communication, like going back and forth every day, video chatting. We got comfortable video chatting pretty quickly. We met my husband via video chat pretty quickly early on as well, audio chatting, stuff like that. April 3rd, unfortunately, I had COVID, so I was home, and we decided we wanted to try and find a way for him to come over to the United States to visit in the summertime. Obviously, as a teacher, having a few months off made it easy to be able to have him here and take him around and show him things. And the way my husband and I saw it was the worse. So we applied for the visa April 3rd. For those of you unaware of how that all works, it's quite complicated. We're very lucky to be Americans because we can pretty much travel wherever we want. You buy a plane ticket, you buy a hotel, you go as long as you have a passport. For other people coming to the United States just for visiting, it's very difficult and it's a lengthy process, especially the first time you do it. So we applied April 3rd. He had an interview was set up for July 5th. That's how long the wait was to actually get an interview to even see if he would be allowed to come or not. They make you, the United States government makes you pay $160 up front for the visa. You forfeit that even if they decide you're not going to get the visa. So it's kind of wild. He had his interview the day after Independence Day. He went in, he decided to do the interview in English rather than in Ukrainian or Russian or Polish, which he speaks those languages as well. And that day he was approved immediately. They said, welcome to the United States. They said, you'll have your visa tomorrow. And we booked a flight within days to have him over here, so it was very, very exciting. So he got here July 24th, and he stays until August 21st, so a solid month in the United States. So I'm going to turn it over to Olek to have him kind of explain his experience so far.
First of all, I would love to say thank you for everyone who come here to respond for our. So I would like to start from first main thing, like many people don't understand why the war started. Because when I came to the United States, I was speaking with an officer, and he asked me a question: did you know the war gonna be? Because I left Ukraine 3 days before war started. I'm 80 years old, so people from 80 to 60 go to military. Yeah, my friends got invitation to military center. My military center was in Bucha, what is not as one of the terrible cities of Russia made in Ukraine. So the military center was just bombed, so I didn't get any. I'm not sure if people still fort or rebuild it. I have no news from there. Before 24th, I think it's 16, our president made short video for Ukrainian, for his own media on TV, so that we don't have to worry about the war because we have a strong army. Russia just manipulate, and then after a week, my parents want to leave Ukraine before they were so excited. There was a bit afraid because many people left Ukraine already when after this video. And then 21st I go to Poland, my school started, and 24 in the morning, it's my mom told me that at 4 a.m. everything started, first bombs, first siren, sounds, planes, everything. It's we all know who started the war like that. Hitler, Poland, Second World War, we all know about it. And Putin did the same actually with Ukraine. He started the war at 4 a.m. Kharkiv, Sumy, first area, Kyiv, Mariupol, Kherson, everything started at the same time. They planned about it. They want to get Kyiv in 3 days. They were planning. They was Ukrainians doesn't have people will support us. That's how they did in 20, 40 year. They just came into our I would say states, we have all of us, but you understand better states. They just pick out our government and they put their police, soldiers, with automat, with everything, with guns, and they make people to vote to join Russia. We have DNR, that's kinda Russian. So it's started. Putin applied DNR and LNR to go in Russia, join Russia as a country. And there was our Ukrainian military, because that's Ukraine. And then he told we have a few days to back our soldiers from there to our territory. And then, if no, he will attack us. After 2 days, he didn't attack. So everyone was calmed down, like everything was fine. And then 24th, I wake up in the morning. I was living with my friend. His girlfriend called me, and like airport was bombed everywhere. Each airport in Ukraine was bombed. Each. It doesn't matter big at the same time. It doesn't matter big, small. I live near to one of the biggest airports in Ukraine, so there's like plane. It was the hugest plane in Korea. Translate like drink. Stomach, and my mom woke up. She didn't understand what happened. And when she heard every bomb was dropping, that's really terrible sounds. People who have never been there, I have never been there, thank God. But I remember I was calling her, and I hear like airplanes going near Kyiv, because we live near to Kyiv, like it's 2 kilometers from the area. So when I hear airplanes going, when I hear like bomb, bomb every second, it's terrible. I went to my Instagram, like normally I don't have many notifications there, but then I look at my director and there was like 9 message plus, and everyone like, what is going on in Ukraine? And through all these messages I saw only one Russian, one's Ukraine, my friend also Russian, one's Ukraine, and then in this second I stopped calling my mom. I was afraid she not pick up, because you know how it's like, a panic attack, everything. I was just really hard to talk about it, but I was calling her and she's like, I remember only one thing she told me, Olek, it starts, the war starts real soon. Like, we had war from
2014.
Yes, exactly. From then we have it, like, but not on Holy Grail. Now they just bomb, and what Russia did, they start to go to Kyiv. Like military, not just military, you know, but private military, real good military. They train, they go to Hostomel, which is near to us, and they was just destroying everything, like literally. They first 3 days they didn't kill people at all. They, like how it's war normally, like you kill military bases in general. But after when they understood they can't just take Kyiv, just like it's impossible for them, because Kyiv it's really huge. It's like it's huge as Boston a few times, you know.
I think it's like 4 times as large.
Yeah, it's like maybe New York, maybe a bit bigger. Yeah, but Kyiv it's really huge. It's not easy because they think because of building. Like we didn't rebuild it just like from first. Streets, crossed everything, crossed. It's not just like you go, it's easy. And then they start to kill people, just kill people on the streets.
Regular civilians.
Yeah. My mom was 3 days there. She couldn't sleep at all. She like seen all sounds.
Oh, hearing all the sounds, the sirens.
The sirens,
air
one of
alert
the terrible
sirens.
things there. Because when you just go for a few seconds to sleep and the sirens again turn on, it's terrible. Yeah, and she couldn't sleep. And when Russia already destroyed Bucha from like, I don't know how to explain, like from Earth, like there's nothing from Bucha, they started moving in Irpin. And our local political in Irpin, they like made, in our city lives like 85,000 people. After all evacuation, they did like 2,000 people stayed in city from 85 to 2. So my mom got evacuation from Irpin to Romania, but in her way there's like bus. There's like bus with people normally, and there is like a border inside of between states. People like Ukrainian soldiers checked, and while she was there, Russia starts fight this border with soldiers, and there's like serious fighting. Like they may kill people in the buses, what they did in other ways, not in my with my mom. So she got really lucky, and a driver, bus driver, he was really nice. He didn't he just started to run. You know what I mean? Like just drive from the place, he turned on in left area, and they just moved. So he saved many lives because Russian soldiers, it was after they understood Ukrainian, not really welcome Russian there. And then my dad was at work as a driver, and he got her from the border in Romania, and then they moved to Poland. They were working together, and then they moved to Switzerland, where they are still nowadays. About me, many people left Ukraine, like 10 millions moved from their houses in Ukraine and 5 millions out of Ukraine. So first they 2 millions just moved across the border with Poland. Poland is a huge, they have a lot because as you told, with our passport we're not in European Union, so we don't have strong passport. We have to stay at the borders with line checks, everything, our stuff. And Poland, they didn't do that. They told Ukrainian people who go from the border, they can just go without any Czech passport, because they understood, because they were in the same situation with 41st and 39 year when the second World War started. They understood how it's gone from bombs. They had the same experience with German invasion, and that's also great that our president, Volodymyr Zelensky, didn't leave Ukraine. He stayed there. He was like, I'm with you. Joe Biden, Andrzej Duda, other president from Europe said to him, we can take your family out of Ukraine. Like your kids, your wife, everything from Ukraine. He said, no, I don't need to tax any people or vehicles.
Yeah, he said, I need ammunition, not
Yes,
bread.
yes, exactly.
Save the
And after this, Ukrainian, they see that president didn't leave. They have fight for Russia, have nothing to fight for. They just, Russia sends their soldiers for nothing, just died. Ukrainian fights for life, future, freedom, exactly. And we start fighting. And now Russia occupied 20% of Ukraine on the east.
And the southeast.
Yeah, exactly. Southeast, where is Mariupol, where died more than 20,000 people. Civilians, not soldiers. Just civilians in Mariupol. Graves was just in one grave can be 5 bodies or even more. In one grave. So there is huge lines with grave because Russian didn't, just not people, I don't know, just all bodies they killed. Mariupol was a really pretty city. I've been there, before war started, general, not full. I've been there, see, there's really pretty city. And after I saw what Russia did, no, it's terrible. No, it's just, you are guys so far away from the war. You just hear some news, and I understand that maybe people who are here, they care, I see. But many people who oh, it's far away, it doesn't harm me, right? It doesn't touch me. But in Europe, they told each country that we, after Second War, we studied. We read history, we know that history. It will never happen again. It will happen today. Again, my friend, he couldn't leave Irpin first week, and he told me why. I messaged him, then he got to Poland. He's safe now, but when he had been there, his mom, grandpa. Russian was really moved fast because they had more tanks that we have, like everything, soldiers, more. They just got we have like good ammunitions, you know, they have just counts of people. Like we have 10,000, they have 30,000. And they just push, like Soviet Union did the same with German. They just push many people, that's why Soviet Union died the most number, yeah, so it's like 20 million. Same to Russia now, already died officially 50,000. That's a cool find. No Russia did. They just like, if someone died, they just bring the body, fire. And the family, they call it like, we don't know, he lost.
They don't see, I guess the way you kind of say it, Russia, from what he's hearing and seeing and stuff, and hearing from his friends and families, they're not even treating their soldiers like soldiers, just like bodies to throw at the war to get what they
like
want.
chess game.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they have more, and when Russia moved the front line near to Kiev, they started to do the same things. So they start checking people for tattoos. Yeah, tattoos. Like we have Azov, that's our whole battalion.
Yeah, it's like a battalion in their
Battalion,
military.
yeah. So if they see some like similar to Azov tattoos or anything, they just kill people. That's what happened in Mariupol, that's happened in Irpin, what's happening in Bucha. Like soldiers just bring people, check them, if they see, they just kill.
No explanation.
No explanation, not to family. They can just kill a child because he doesn't look good. Because he has Ukrainian, I don't know, like he looks like a Ukrainian, I don't know how to explain. Like if you have any like Ukrainian, like Ukraine or
pro-Ukrainian tattoos,
Yeah.
you have a flag outside your
Yeah.
house, just like we have our American flags around.
they
you.
just kill him. Like you can see, it's like
They would kill me.
yeah, they would. Because like they say like swastika, like Nazis, they think we are Nazis.
I was gonna say, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So one thing that Russia tried to say to justify the invasion this time, because they have, as you mentioned early on when we started talking, that Russia has been in Ukraine illegally since 2014. They've occupied the eastern part of Ukraine as well as they annexed Crimea in the south. But now we're in full-scale war. But basically, their argument is the Ukrainian government is run by Nazis, and that they're going in to liberate the Ukrainian people from their dictator, their Nazi leadership, even though their president was, you know, democratically elected, just like we have here, by overwhelming majority, actually. There, he won by, I think he got 78% of the vote, which is unheard of in American politics. He's Jewish. I think it was 75% of his family was killed in the Holocaust, yet they're liberating Ukrainian people from Nazis. So that's been the narrative coming out of Russia this whole time to justify it, as many of you know, the propaganda machine in Russia, right? They don't have a true democracy or anything like that. So the propaganda that they're pushing out to their people, I think it's, you told me it was like 80% of the
Yeah.
people believe what Putin's telling them.
They support
telling them.
like 80
Yeah, they
people
support Putin
war
in
in
the war.
Ukraine.
And they really think that they are truly liberating people who want to be liberated. And they forcibly removed, I think, 2 million Ukrainians into Russia, forced them into Russia. And of that, there's about 250,000 children that have been taken from their parents and put up for adoption in Russia.
That's what they did on occupied territory. They made like a law what led to get Russian passport easier for people who live there. They just use a gun, want to be Russian? Yes.
Yeah, you don't have a choice to
You
say
can
no.
choice.
Yeah,
There's
you
only
can't say
one
no.
answer, yes. That's what they did like in Crimea. There's literally there was like paper, like do you want to join Russia? There is only one answer, yes. Even if like a few people say yes, there's already count.
Yeah, they're doing, and they're continuing to do this as they're pushing
Yeah.
into Ukraine, and they take over other cities, and they're called oblasts, but you could think of them more as like states in the United States. As they push into new areas, they give them referendums. And they force you to choose yes, or they kill you. Or they lock you up and detain you and then kill you, or torture you, or whatever the case is. And so they're trying to use this to justify to the rest of the world, look, the people want to join Russia. We're going into hell. Because we all know that that's
Or
not
they
the
bring,
case.
like what's happened, like many times, they bring people from Siberia, from Russia, like not from this European part of Russia, but from Siberia, who doesn't know literally nothing, because there is nothing, there is no electricity, there is no roads, only you have TV with one channel, with propaganda, so what you can know. There is like, European part of Russia is more, you can live there, it's possible.
More modern.
More. There's like 50 million. What about like another 100 million people who lives out of social media? In first week they blocked Instagram, Facebook, everything. They just watch it, people don't know what they do. They write Z, letter Z, on their like times, everything.
Yeah,
And they
you
call
see-
our Nazis.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you see some of the images of the Russian tanks and artillery pieces, there's the letter Z and V on a lot of them, and that's now becoming synonymous with the swastika. Like, I know, unfortunately, one day I'm gonna have to teach this stuff, that we will see the Z and the V that Russia's put on their tanks as the Nazi swastika. That comes to symbolize what horrible atrocities occurred there. And it's hard for him to obviously speak about some of the really atrocious things that his family and friends have told him about firsthand. They sent him pictures, I mean, like real pictures. And I see some of my students here, I told my students and showed my students some of these images that came out of Bucha specifically when we were in school. And I mean, we're talking, they're tying civilians' hands behind their backs and executing them in the street, leaving the body. So when Russia left, you just had bodies laying across the streets.
I can show, not everyone can see, but what they did is with my friend's house.
There's just nothing left.
The car, there's still Ukrainian flags there.
You know, ordinary homes. You had spoken at the beginning, and I told my students this, like it sounds silly to say there's rules of war, but there are rules of war.
It was first 3
Yeah,
days.
you're not supposed to target civilians, you're not supposed to target civilian infrastructure, so schools,
it's real
hospitals.
war.
If it's a real war,
If
there's
you-
laws.
If you fight for something,
Yes.
even Hitler, okay, he's like one of the worst person ever, but he has idea,
Strategy.
strategy, he was fighting for something. They were fighting for Kyiv, and in 3 days they just like, oh no, we just will all that.
Yeah, when Putin didn't get what he wanted, it went kind of scorched earth, destroy everything, kill everyone, and we're gonna kill them into submission, essentially. Like,
Putin is worse than Hitler because he has nuclear weapons, so many countries just don't want to
get involved.
yeah,
To escalate
with Russia,
the
they
war.
don't just break diplomacy or relationship with Russia because they're afraid. Because this man is crazy. He can just tomorrow he decide like, oh, no, I will die. So regret button.
Launch a nuclear
Yeah.
weapon.
And my grandma and my uncle and his wife, they're still in Ukraine, Irpin. Maybe many people hear about Irpin. What's going on because it's like really near to Russia. And Russia bombs literally every day. It's not like I'm saying it's every day. It's literally every day. They gave a week break after all bombs, everything. They just gave a week to a break to people can leave because like no, it's not. It's like 3 letters, like word word community, like
Like a community center.
yes, kind of. I don't know how to explain. Like each country, like government. You know what I mean?
So the UN, was it
Yeah,
the UN?
like NATO, but it's
Yeah,
not-
so, the World Health, probably one of those. Basically what he's trying to explain is that Russia sat down and and they agreed to evacuation corridors
Yes.
for those
That's what I'm
civilians
saying.
for about a week. So they got a week break to where civilians could get out, but obviously when you have thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of people, a week's not a very long time to move people out of the area.
My grandma, she's like 84 years old. She can't just move, just sit in car, just go. So that's why they stay. There is Kharkov, they live
Just outside the
just
city,
outside
right?
city, yeah. And of course, they hear everything. Like my mom hears what is going on behind her, and here, you hear like it's impossible just to live there, but they do. They still are there. My uncle, he has his own business. Like he was selling clothes,
Clothing.
yeah. And in 2 weeks, Russia just bombed this center, like gallery,
The mall.
the mall, yeah, they just bombed it. And there is nothing there, like, had 80% of his old stuff, they were just in fire. So nothing, now he has no job, like, our government, as possible, try to help them, but it's not that, now it's not the right time to do that, because we still have many occupied territory we have to get back. President said we will fight for them. Russia tries to give us like peace, yeah, like
Tries to make
yeah,
agreements
if
to
you-
take territory. If you give us this, we'll stop the war.
exactly, if you give us all territory we got, we'll stop the war. Zelensky said never. People now in Ukraine fights 1 million soldiers for our soldiers, not civilian, already soldiers. Before war started, it was like 250,000. Normal, like military who started, now it's 1 million. It's grow up early because people fight. I saw many people from other countries when I was in Krakow. I take bus from Poland to Switzerland to visit my parents, and there was many people who are not Ukrainian but still have our Ukrainian flags, symbols, military. Yeah, exactly. And they
Foreign fighters.
yeah, and you like want to ask why they fight, because they understand that's ridiculous what is going on in 2022. Like, it's hard to speak. Sorry, so
I mean, for a minute. A lot of it is hard for us to like truly understand. Like you can listen to this, right, and be like empathetic and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But to actually know people there that are physically stuck there, have family there, to have the trauma that a lot of these people, I mean, all of them are going through, what the kids are seeing. I mean, kids are being murdered. There's mass rapings, tortures. I mean, the stuff that they're going through there is just absolutely unfathomable for us as Americans sitting comfortably at home, enjoying our summer, whatever the case is. And it's not to, as I was telling my students about this over the spring semester, it wasn't to make them like feel badly, so to speak, but to be aware. Because as Olek mentioned, after World War II, a slogan came out that said, never again. Well, we didn't even make it 80 years. We didn't even make it that long, really, And we're seeing very similar things occur. And in a lot of ways, it's almost worse because obviously the weapon technology is a lot more destructive than it was in World War II. You can kill people very quickly and a lot of people at once with the missiles, with the bombs. I think it's over 2,000 missile strikes on Ukraine so far in just a few months, over 2,000 missiles. Thousands of educational institutions have been destroyed, thousands of hospitals. I mean, they are literally targeting civilian infrastructure to get the Ukrainian government to give them what they want. The Ukrainians don't want to make a deal. So some people have also viewed this as, well, maybe they need to sit down and make a deal. That's really not our place to say as Americans. It just isn't. It's up to their people and their government. but their government says we won't make a deal, and you had told me that I think 93% of Ukrainians support not making a deal, fighting to get the territory
As
back.
I told you, many hospitals in my school, I live near to it. I was going there, the school was bombed 15 times. 15 times bombed on the school. There is no basement, you know what I mean, like the basement.
Yes,
it's
there's no
just-
military base, it's like Diamond, 15
Yeah, the
times.
people can just go to be stay there. No, it's just school. They 15 times. And good question, for what? Because you have rockets, you can use them? For what? Because like Putin, he has everything, but it's not enough. Russia is the hugest country in the world. It's many gold, it's many gas, oil, everything. They could be richer there. America than many countries. It's like, I love America, of course, but they could be richer than every country. But they didn't. Because it was from first beginning, there was like, we have territory, but we're not gonna improve it. We want more. That's why they do in Ukraine. Ukraine already built cities, pretty cities. And they said, oh, we go there, we just will enjoy it to us. And when they understood, as I told before, that people are not welcome to them. People are Ukrainian, not Russian. And then they start destroy cities. Just destroy that, like my school 15 times. I live near to school, but I have a huge house.
Oh, okay. His house is like a townhouse, so like.
Yeah, my house, but behind my house is really
Apartments, like skyscrapers?
Yes, and this will save my house because if I don't have any photos because we can't take photos right now in public places.
Military.
Yeah, military. Yeah, we can just take photos, but a few like media showed us that there is just holes in normally apartment. There's just holes from rockets. People who was living there, they back if they have nothing. And what's to them who likes it? Actually, I really like Ukraine. Okay, it's not super comfortable country to live. It's not super rich, but I don't think I will ever back because 80% of my city is destroyed. Like 80%, like that's a really huge city. It's like Fall River. Irpin is really huge. There's a lot of parks, hospitals. It's really nice. It was one of prettiest Ukrainian cities. Like it's European standard with everything. But then they just came there and destroyed everything. When the war started, 14 years,
2014.
I was 10 years old. 10 years old, Ukrainian child, doesn't understand anything at all. Who already hear from mom, she think like, there's war in our country. I didn't understand like, oh, it's war. I saw games where people fighting each other, like, oh, that's cool, that's fine. But when I saw me, they tried to keep me away from, because I'm 10, and break my mental health, everything. They just like, no, don't watch it. But it's really hard to watch what's going on in your country. And when I saw first in 8 years after, when I'm still adult, I'm not still a child, but when I see the same is going on with the wars, how they started just rockets in centers of cities where live people, like you wake up every day, you don't care about what's gonna be tomorrow, you're not afraid to wake up. People even can't go to sleep because of siren, because of sound, air, you know, it's terrible. Like people can't just sleep because they're Ukrainians. Because they don't want to be like Russia, they don't want to be zombies, just like Ukrainians. many people before the war started, they said Ukraine and Russia is the same. Like, with Poland, Belarus, Albania, because many people know Russia is bigger. So they say like Ukraine is the same as Russia, but now we see it's not the same. Not at all. Language are multiple because that's Slavic. We are Slavic, we all have. But really funny thing, Ukrainian can understand other Slavic languages like Polish, Slovenian, Slovakian, Russian, can understand Ukrainian. They can't just understand, they're like, can you speak Russian please? And they call us brothers. The whole this time they call us brothers. Like Ukraine is like my little brother. And my little brother just being the oldest brother, whose house they tell like, they always try to take our history away. Like no, Ukraine never exists. Actually, Ukrainian is one, not Ukraine, okay, not Ukraine, but starting, beginning from Ukraine, what's called like Kievan Rus, Rus. It's older than Paris and Moscow and the United States and many countries. And they always try to destroy it. And they call it Russian, but it's from their history like Piotr I made. Called them because he went to Europe and he saw like what is Europe. It looks better, but he can't just, it starts from them. He can't just tell people that it's better than we have here. So they just close borders and they just don't let people go. That's how it was in Soviet Union. Soviet Union was huge propaganda about it. But they can't just go out Soviet Union. It has make many rules, many like so yeah, exactly. To just go out. And when Ukraine got independent, people didn't want, like we want to be Russian. Never. Because they see people who live in Ukraine, they see difference between Ukraine and Russia. They didn't want to be zombies.
And I think one thing to keep in mind too is like, yeah, I've told my students a lot of this, but Ukraine is a super young country. Like the United States is a young country when you think of like Europe, but Ukraine, 1991. That's very young.
Official.
Yeah, official, exactly. And to have built up as much as they have in those 30-ish years, it's insane because Olek was speaking earlier in his presentation that there's parts of Russia where there's not even electricity, running water, and people live in those areas. I mean, the soldiers were coming, I remember you told me this and I looked it up, so it was like, no way is this true. Not that I didn't believe you, but it sounded so unbelievable. Russian soldiers that they've taken from those areas, those poor areas of Russia to go fight, because they're like, who's gonna miss that poor kid over there? They were stealing washing machines from Ukrainian houses.
Never seen my friend.
To send back home because they had never seen a washing machine before in 2022. Yeah.
That's what Russia is. That's what government hides from everyone. When we see first thing when we see Russia, it's like big country, powerful, nuclear.
You see like Moscow, you see those, the architecture, like, oh, it's beautiful, like
What's
this
that?
is great.
Go out Moscow like it's kilometers, 80 miles away from Moscow. There's nothing. There's like we back 100 years back.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, more than that.
No electricity, no running water. As soon as you get to the outskirts of their major
My friend,
cities.
he lives in Kharkov, and the war started. They moved. She's like she professional gymnastic.
Yeah, gymnast.
Gymnast. She has a lot of gold
Trophies.
everything. When some of their friends back in their car, there's nothing. Russia just went there, took all goals, took all what is possible. I don't know, like TV.
Yeah, TVs, toasters, like things that you're just like, really? That's your priority right now?
And they just went because they don't have any priority now. They're like, their government explained why they moved from Kyiv. Like, Kyiv wasn't our priority. That's why we killed around 15,000 people there, just because it's not your priority. And you lie, it's literally lying to people, and people truly believe that. People truly believe that we are better than everyone. That's really hilarious, and when I hear about it, like, I have one friend, he is 12 years old, from Harkov, from center of Harkov. And he was sleeping, and the war at 4 started. He didn't understand what's going on. Like I was 10, but I was away from war, the beginning of the war, yeah. And when the war began, Harkov first bombs dropped in Ukraine territory. He didn't went to school, and parents didn't know to leave or stay there. So like I don't understand it. Of course, leave, but they had some. And then when it's no time to leave, the way he speaks, it's not well. It's not well at all. It's like 18 or even more. The way he speaks, the way he came through. He told like the way he's speaking like a man, like a real man. I was living in the basement 1 month. He didn't cry. And since 12-year man, I'm going to cry now because it's terrible. But he's 12, and when he says, I live in the basement 1 month. Child, that's our future. We should take care of them. That's why our soldiers die there, for our future, for our kids, for everything. And when kids say, like I can hear everything. I was living in basement 1 month, just because one old crazy man decided to take some part of Ukraine. It's not enough for him. It's Russia. No, it's not enough. He should take Ukraine. It's terrible. And when I hear it from him, I almost start to cry because it sounds, from my mouth it sounds like just a history. I hear it from someone, but when you see the real cute one kid, little boy who has all life in the future, and he says like I didn't went to school, I didn't know what was going on, and we went to basement and we were living for a month. Can you imagine? Living, no electricity, nothing. Sometimes food, just because you're Ukrainian, because you're military. It's 2022 when war has problems with nature, everything, like global problems, global warming. We don't see any problem in Europe. Ukraine is one of the hugest. We don't take. I will not say Russia or Europe because it's not Europe. Europe is like people when smiling. Europe is nice. People don't care about tomorrow as you guys don't care. Like you're not afraid of war, right? You're not afraid that tomorrow is gonna be war and you have to move somewhere. People in Ukraine, they did as well. But one day, just knock in their house, the war. War is terrible. It's not in the game. It's not Call of Duty or something, anything. When you see, like my friends, I remember I told you about tattoos. He was living in basement as well, and his neighbors living there, but they went out of basement just for a little time to get food or something. The Russian Air Force started bombing, and when my friends went from basement, he saw just dead bodies, just of the neighbors. He was speaking like an hour ago or a day ago, dead body of that person. He's dead. He's not alive anymore. And people say that many what were in Bucha, Irpin, that's fake. Because Russia propaganda, like from Russia and some from Europe, it's not true. Just go there.
I was going to say there's a lot of, and I told my students about this at the time, the propaganda of Russia saying these are actually staged like crops, like Halloween crops and stuff, or the Ukrainian soldiers did this to their own people, that's why we're going to liberate them, things like that, just the propaganda that's coming out of there, but we obviously are not seeing just that one narrative, we get to see the whole picture, we know that's ridiculous, but Russian people, that's what their government's telling them, that's the only thing they're seeing, and they believe it.
They have nothing to believe. Like, they have 3 channels, all are federal channels, this Russian Federation, federal, when everything says goes through filter, they keep all things like, when they go like in, they block Instagram, Facebook, they have nothing to hear. It's the truth. And Europe, many people really support Ukraine. They give their own houses so people can live because they know, like Poland knows about Second World, they have their own experience. No one helped Poland then.
And Poland, I think you had told me, like, Poland has definitely been the #1 supporter
Yes.
of the Ukrainians. They're their neighbors, so like think of us to like
That's
Canada,
real,
right? They share a border. And, you know, when millions of Ukrainians started fleeing and going over the border, instead of like halting them and checking IDs and all that, they were letting them come in. Just come in, just come in, just come in and get safe. Obviously, Poland's part of NATO, so there's that extra protection. So they're trying to get as many Ukrainian civilians into their country as possible, and to the point where it's like Poland's kind of like bursting at the seams. There's nowhere to put all these people, despite how much they want to help. So we started having other countries in Europe, just ordinary citizens offering their homes to bring refugees to their homes to stay. And the reason Poland's been so helpful, that Olek was just mentioned, is like with World War II, Poland was invaded by Germany. They know what it's like for a dictator to, you know, have France into their home and say, we're going to take this now. So again, it's not even been 80 years. It's not been that long. They remember this. There's people there
Who's still
that were
alive?
alive
Yeah.
during World War II. So they get it.
I understand, yeah. And Russian invasion, that's one of the terrible, but that's example that when you say that never again, never say never, because you don't know other countries. When you live in, like for example, France is so far away, France is good neighbors, Switzerland, Germany, our countries who are peaceful, they're all in NATO. But when we have neighbor, Russia, Belarus. Tanks go from Belarus to Kyiv and other things. We have really long border with Russia, like 2,000 kilometers, 1,000 something miles, to better understand. So what can our soldiers do when it's 1,000 miles border? And they go like Ukraine has had 45 million people. Now they're less in Ukraine. And Russia has 150 million. And they just go, they push people. Like was in Azovstal. Like, I don't remember how many days, but 3 months. Yeah, 3 months Azovstal, that's a factory when our soldiers have been there with civilian people and defended them. And Russia just was bombed many times with military ships, with helicopters, with air force, with phosphor bombs. It's just, and just because they can't break their spirit, exactly, they can just break. They don't agree like Ukraine. What is Ukraine for them? Nothing. Just another territory. And many countries in Europe, anyway, people in Europe don't understand what is important to save Ukraine today. Because if you don't save Ukraine today, you're gonna be next. If Ukrainians fight, Belarus joins Russia, there is border with Europe. Tanks, everything goes to Europe. And if we don't do anything today, it's gonna be worse. That's what our president told to each government, that we need ammunition. Because how many are people dying there? That's just crazy. But not our, because like our generals, they care. At some point they care, they build strategy, Russia just go, just push territory, so that's why they move fast. And when Ukraine destroys any important places, they just back. Because there's nothing, they just sitting in homes. I remember, I'm not sure if I found it, there is like building that civilian people live, and near to this building, just line of tanks. They just hiding with in these places, just hiding. So if Ukraine wants to destroy the tanks, they will destroy the people as well. First day, Ukraine bombed all bridges, who goes to Kyiv, and Russia was like, oh, Ukraine bombs Ukraine. Like it sounds
It's a strategy to prevent the Russians from moving in. But
They would start from Kyiv, go to Poland. In a week, Ukraine now, no Ukraine. But Ukraine didn't let them. Didn't Ukrainians, they are stronger. My teacher, she didn't do good things. She told me, like, when the war started in first day, she told me one thing. You understand that you might have a problem with your passport because what if Ukraine doesn't exist? No, it's like hilarious what she told to me. She told, like, you should think about your future, because what if you don't, what if you have no future with your documents or something? And in a week, when Ukraine showed us strong, start fighting, she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know Ukrainians are so strong. Because they're fighting just for, literally for everything, right? For their own country. That's why I want to say that I'm the same person as you, and we are all people. We have different passports, different values, different everything, but we are the same. And when I see that my Ukrainian, my nationality dies because someone decided to kill them just because they are Ukrainian, and me, is the same. Ukrainian passport the same, another language, because they don't all be different. In 2022, it's ridiculous. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
That was powerful. And I really appreciate you joining us, and thank you for joining us. And I purposely started this off by talking about global perspectives and that's part of being life ready, right? More than math, more than English, we're trying to get students life ready after they graduate. Understanding the world is an important part of that. But one thing I said was understanding why things happen. And I said that on purpose because sometimes there is no reason why. There's still parts of our society, our world, that we can't answer. Why do people do that? Why would someone purposely see a country and want to take it over just to have land, just to have power? That still happens in our world. It's part of understanding the perspectives that are out there. That's why hearing this first-hand account is so important, so powerful to your education growing up. So one more time for Olek and his brave crew. We do have a little time for question and answers. I'll step away, but Ashley, if you'd like to facilitate, are there any questions?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. First of all, your English is awesome. So multilingual, good for you. On a different note, can you talk maybe a little bit about like how have you found your experience here in the States as like your holiday from everything going on?
Yeah, so like she wants to know if you can talk about your experience here in the United States, the things you've done so far, things like that.
The United States is really not perfect country because no one country is perfect, but it's really good country for living, for people. We are all very lucky to born here. Maybe some people don't like government don't appreciate what they have, but they were value like as we go from war, from not the best life and come here. That's a lot. It means a lot. I really like here because it's like it's not as Europe. It's similar as Europe, but it's not. It has own vibe. You know, I mean, like
it has its own vibe. It does.
Yeah. It's like I have been in Boston. Boston reminds me really of Kyiv. Not that huge, but the sky.
The skyscrapers,
yeah,
the buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like a bit nostalgic to be there. And Fall River is pretty. It reminds me of my city, Irpin. We had rivers, well, and it's really nice to be here. I'm really glad I could have a chance because many people still can't live in Ukraine, like my uncle. And when I get sad of some little things for me, and I start thinking globally, what about people who can live who just has no food, no water to drink. What about them? I have a little problem. Oh, I didn't do my math homework because I don't want it. People want to go sleep, but they can't. So that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm really glad I'm here and do appreciate it. Miss Ashley helping with the visa, with everything, with my just being here. That's really kind, and we need more people like Miss Ashley.
First of all, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. I think it's really important that everybody hear it and get a different perspective than just what we see on the news. But can you speak to the issue with all of the bombing that's been happening and everything that's being destroyed, the infrastructure, places of work, the school? How are people, we don't hear that, so we don't hear what are kids doing that their schools have been bombed? You know, what are people doing for work? How are they getting money if their places of employment no longer exist?
As I told you before, government tries to help people because there's a lot of people who was damaged by Russian invasion. There's a lot of governments are paying some money, as government paid my debt, $60 per month because he's like old, he's pretty old, like 61 years, 62 years old. And he gives this money, $60, to our military. And people who, as my friend, he literally, I showed you before, he literally took back to home. And he figured out there's no home anymore, just fire. And that's many people. People who came out of Ukraine like me, they're so lucky. Because now it's really problem to find a war, just to find, in Kyiv it's pretty much, but other territories like Kharkov and other cities, it's really hard now with food, with water, it's hard.
There's a lot of like what we're used to, like when you think of like soup kitchens and things like that for homeless people. There's a lot of that that have lines.
Yeah, it was only for homeless people like who are homeless, but now there is more % of homeless people who had home than everything.
And he was telling me about this, and I saw some stories about like for students and stuff, like a lot of the teachers that have stayed are teaching like in basements. They're trying to give the kids some sense of normalcy, to cheer them up. So you got
distract them like from the war. It's important if a child, like as my friend like 12 years old, already saw war, what can be worse in his life. Go to the war, he already knew it. It's one of the terrible wars, one of the terrible what happened to us nowadays.
So it's a lot of just, social programs and trying, like ordinary citizens trying to support each other and try and help each other through that. Like, he told me, there was a lot of political division in this country too, just like we're used to here. But the war kind of united everyone together, and now you have people who didn't leave the country. You're not forced, like he had spoken about between 18 and 60, if you're a man, you can't leave the country because they're under martial law, and he was lucky enough that he was out of the country 3 days prior to the war breaking out. But if he goes back, he has to stay, so he can't go back to Ukraine while there's martial law, or he'll have to stay. But you're not forced to fight. There's enough people there that are volunteering to fight that the government hasn't had to conscript anyone yet, which is amazing if you think about it. So you have kids and grandmothers and stuff like sewing clothes for the military. Like think of like World War I, World War II stuff. Like how do you help people fighting? Well, ration food for the soldiers, make socks, whatever you can do. You've got ordinary civilians doing that right now, and it's just hard to wrap our minds around that when it's so far away and we haven't seen anything like this in so long. But that's kind of what's going on there right now. Yes, of course.
First off, I just want to thank you again. I don't think we can thank you enough for coming here and sharing your story. Obviously, it's more than a story. I think one of the biggest things for me, myself, as someone who's just a regular civilian in America, how do we continuously educate ourselves, find the resources, and also help out, your country? Because I think one of the biggest things here is become a little desensitized to some of the things that go on, just living our lives lives. That's just some of the things, some of the luxuries we do have in America. But how do we make sure that we, continuously support you and support your country in some of the questions?
So, as Americans, we have a pretty good life, and it's hard for us to imagine what your people are going through. What are ways that Americans keep educating themselves about what's going on in Ukraine, and how can we help support Ukraine?
Ukraine is something like U24.
Yeah, United 24, which is the initiative that their government put together.
Yeah, so many, not only Americans, but people from donate money for literally for rebuilding, for the school people, for medicine, for everything.
And you can choose what initiatives you want to donate to, and the government is ensuring, and they give reports every month as well, where that money's going. So some people are pacifists and don't believe in weaponry, but they want to help Ukraine, and they're in a position financially where they can do so. You can choose that you're going to give the money for humanitarian aid. That money will not be used for military weapon purchases and things like that. You can choose to donate for military weapons. You can choose to donate for reconstruction of the country afterwards. So that's what, obviously donations are necessary and helpful for Ukraine. What about if people don't have money to give, but they want to help?
Then just support, tell the truth, media, tell what is really is going on. Like what many popular Ukrainian artists who is fight that is still out in Ukrainian, how they tell truth. Say your friend who is going on, it's still like what you can study from it, that you have to appreciate your life here. Maybe you have some problems, everyone has problems, but it's not that huge problems as it can be. Like you get fired from work, it's bad of course, but if some people just can't get work.
Works bomb.
Yes, yes, or like you get sick and you feel bad, you feel terrible, and when you got health, right? You got healthy, like after sick, you appreciate your life more. Like, oh, I feel better now. That's good. So the same here. You should feel yourself like, because I don't know how it's clearly saying in English, but just appreciate your life.
Don't take what you have for granted. Remember what other people are going through. And as you mentioned, like we all have problems, obviously, and sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in that. But if you're aware of what's going on in other parts of the world, what other people are experiencing, it can kind of put things into perspective for yourself and to be appreciative of what you have. I mean, he's seen many countries. One of his things I was going to ask is like his plans after his last year. Technically, he's in his last year of high school this year. So you'd be like a 12th grader here. And do you want to speak to kind of your plans after?
Yeah. So I have been here for 2 weeks, right? And I really like it. I would love to go to university somewhere, but in United States university are so expensive. Like one of the expensive in the world. But some who has rich parents, the parents make them go. And they just don't want to study. If I have any chance to go any university, because I know some university has like programs for Ukrainian and how who wants to study. I always took like study on first priority because it's about my future. And if any university could react or like just have any program for me or just for other Ukrainians who can study, it would be really nice to have any chance to stay in America because I really like the country. I have been in many countries in Europe, but it's not the same as Europe. That's about my plans. And about Ukraine, I think I will look back everything, because many years needed to go there to rebuild everything. So probably I will try to find a new home in Europe.
Any other questions? Of course.
How well known was the FRA as a battalion at World War II?
So
Azov, its name of Azov, and that's people who fight for Ukraine, and it's not like they have all their own side.
Yeah, they weren't officially part of the military prior to the war.
Now they are.
Now they are.
Like many other tornadoes, but Russia still hates Azov because actually Azov is really strong battalion. It's really strong people. They're like Spetsnaz, like
They're special units.
special units,
Special
exactly.
forces.
Yeah. So, and there is a lot of people who won't join, but they don't join because there should be like rules to join it.
Yeah,
It's
certain
not just easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all.
Any other questions? Of course.
Thank you so much for being here. Powerful speech. Really appreciate it. Do you have family or friends who are fighting, who are in the military right now?
Yes, I have actually, that's good. You asked me. Yes, I have a friend, old friend. He went to military 2 years before war started. He's like 80 years old. Now he's older, so he went. And now he's still alive. He's still in Ukraine. And many of my friends, old friends, who have been there now in Ukraine, who fight. They took
Join the military.
Exactly. I have sometimes I message them sometimes if they're fine or not because it's important to cheer them up. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Here for Olek one last time. Obviously, just, we can't thank you enough for being here. You're welcome back anytime. You're absolutely a diamond bangle forever. But just powerful words today. Really makes you reflect on our freedom here, and we can't thank you enough. But to give a few closing remarks, I would like to introduce our interim superintendent, Mr. Ryan.
Not being one to talk in front of people. My name is Brian Beverly. I'm so happy to be back here at Diman as the interim superintendent director. Your story, your stories are so powerful. We take for granted everything that we do. We can go to the store, we can buy gasoline, we can take off vacations, and everything that you spoke about today is how well thought out it has to be for you and people in the country to do that. You saw me standing next to a gentleman over there who's a priest. His name's Father Mello. He's on a school committee, and he says regularly at his masses, they will take up donations to send to the Ukraine. And he does, and he still has a friend that he went to college with from Ukraine. And his story was that his friend said, we appreciate your money, but do you have any connections to someone with helmets and bulletproof vests? And he says, you know, it hurts me as a priest, he says, to be asking for this kind of equipment when it shouldn't even be a thought in our country. Our young people, those who are fighting for freedom, it's just a passion that they have. And we over here, we see it, but we don't totally comprehend it. You know, it's something on TV, something happening someplace else. Well, today, you brought it home so that we can understand much better exactly what we go through every day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for setting it up, and thank you for sharing a really intimate portion of your life that we can now understand a little better. Thank you so much. And you are a diamond bangle forever.
All right, everyone, thank you very much. Do not hesitate to grab the water on the way out, and we'll hang around for a little bit afterward, but we appreciate you all coming. Thank you.